What's up, everybody? We're here back again with Tica Taylor. We're doing a interview. We're going to dive into some of her life, culture, background, belief systems, all of those things, talking a little bit about community. We're excited because a lot of times we don't get to dive into these intimate moments, these intimate stories with real world people, not just celebrities. They're people too, but we want to dive into people who are entrenched in the community. So we're here in Miami, Florida, where I was born and raised, Sakba to my Haitians 305. So without further ado, let's get into it. Black stock footage from culture to content. Tica Taylor, thank you again for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for opening up, allowing us into your intimate space. Okay. I really, really appreciate that, not just as a son, but as a professional. What you've amassed here is amazing. So before we talk about the space, tell the world, tell the people, who's Tica Taylor? Where did you grow up? And what was that like? See, when we're doing something always pops up. There's literally a garbage truck out there picking up the garbage, and it's beep, beep, beep. So we'll cut that out. But garbage, taking out the trash. Taking out the trash. Out with the old. We're cleaning out the gutters. All the old stuff. We're getting that energy, recycling it. Hopefully there's recycling. But we are, it happens. It happens. That's life, and we have to pivot, adjust. And every time we're trying to do something and get to that next level, expand, whether it's going up or outward or even inward, there's going to be some challenges that we face. And that's just part of life, the part of the cosmic ebbs and flows. And we just got to roll with those and understand what's the lesson to be learned. And that's what I've been able to do with Black Stock Footage, to not just roll with the punches, but turn those lows into my highs, turn those what ifs into realities, turn those all mans into I overcame. And together, by me doing that as an individual, I can trailblaze and show other video creators, videographers, photographers, creators in general, that we together are stronger, and that we can overcome, and that we can change, and we can guide our own narrative. We don't have to do it in these independent silos. And so as a trash can or a truck is still, the garbage truck is still passing, I'm sharing this message with you all because we could pause. Okay, let's just pause and wait. But we're going to take that opportunity because time is all we have. Our time is precious. And we want to be able to share these narratives across the world. I, as an individual, can only do so much. But the impact, the inspiration is infinite and endless. So by me sharing this small message with you all in hopes that thousands and thousands of people will see it and take and learn from me and do it better and better, or at minimum, do it in your own way that pushes the culture forward and that helps us collectively unite. And that's what Black Stock Footage is for. I even have this shirt, Film the Culture. It's not just about people or objects or situations. It's the culture, and the people make up the culture. The different individual perspectives as we all come together, and we as a community get to decide what's the next evolution of our culture. What's the next adaptation, evolution, spiritual expansion, outward and inward of our culture. And that's why Black Stock Footage is so important. And that's why I appreciate all of you for watching, supporting, liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing this message and this content and these stories with the world.
You're doing an amazing job, Aaron.
No, I appreciate it.
Because you have to be able to have this type of personality and this type of creativity, that type of energy for you to do this. You know what I'm saying? If you were just a plain Joe, it would be boring and uneventful.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're using all of your talents and your gifts to do this.
Yeah. And that's one thing I always wanted to share with people, is that we have to figure out how our talents serve. If our talents only just serve us, then I'm not saying that's bad, but the impact becomes stifled.
Absolutely.
It's like making a big, nice plate of food or a dinner and you're the only one to eat it. You can't eat all that food by yourself, and it's gonna go in the fridge. But when you have that round table where there's children, friends,
Absolutely.
family,
Yes.
and you all are breaking bread over that, that's the culture. And then there's this exchange, this immediate exchange of perspectives, like we were doing last night.
Yes.
That was so cool.
Beautiful, man.
That was better than, okay, pause everything. We're going to make reels. When we started talking about politics, we started talking about the systems and they're in place, the local community things, all types of different topics. And then it naturally progressed into me sharing some of my art with you, Najee sharing some of his art, and Shocker came and he listened. That's how it has to happen sometimes. Sometimes it's not so structured and coordinated.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? Because that serves a purpose, but I like operating on that right brain, that feminine energy in terms of it's circular, it's swishing, that creativity.
Yeah.
It's just this ebb and flow. It's not necessarily, okay, structure. Then that serves a purpose, but I like, probably because I was raised with you, and I love being able to just kind of flow. So that's why I don't have a physical script. I have the basic script of what I want to ask, what I want to talk about. So I'm just appreciative that I have that in me because I can use that. I can turn to this camera and talk and say, hey, are we going to do an interview? And then, all right, set up the cameras and okay, let's get back to it.
All right, let's get back to it.
All right.
Before something else happens.
Yes. Okay. So once again, Tica Taylor, I'm so proud of you and all that you've accomplished all throughout these years. One, you being my mother, and then two, just you being a professional, a Black woman professional who is firm in what she stands for, but is also flexible and growing and able to adapt and grow. Seeing that from a son's perspective is beautiful. And I'm like, wow, my mom's still growing, because you see some people, they get stuck in their ways. They get, or they don't want to change for whatever reason. But I'm so proud that you've been able to grow and change and adapt. So talk to me about some of your background. Talk to me about how you grew up. I would love to dive in and let the world hear some of that.
I just want to say thank you so much for having Black Stock Footage as a platform. And we definitely need this in our culture to be able to show the diversity in the Black community and the Black experience. So congratulations for creating this platform for our community. Just want to say it's amazing, and I'm happy that you have it. Now, about me, my story started when I was in Haiti, known as Haiti. I was born there, and I came here when I was 6 years old. When I came to the United States, it was definitely a big cultural shock. It's totally different from my homeland. So I had to acclimate myself to being here in terms of the diversity of people, different experiences, different expressions, different languages. So it was definitely an eye-awakener for me when I came to the United States at 6 years old. And that made me realize that there's a whole nother world out there. At 6 years old, I just felt like I walked into another world. So, and me being naturally a curious person, I wanted to know more. Even at 6 years old, I wanted to know more. What is this really all about? The diversity that I'm seeing in front of me. So, I kept that curiosity growing up. And when I was in high school, I wanted to really get in touch more with my culture because I was a product of two cultures. One, Haitian, meaning that I was born in Haiti, but I wasn't raised in Haiti. I was raised here in the United States amongst the African American culture. So I was fortunate enough to be able to create a fusion of cultures. My Haitian culture mixed with the African American culture, I got the best of both worlds. So that's my cultural background. But I tend to have more of my spiritual roots from the Haitian part because my grandma was a what you call a spiritualist. She was a herbalist. She was a midwife, and she really was in touch with her spirituality, her African or indigenous spirituality. So I've always held on to that, even though I was raised in the United States by my parents as a Christian. But somehow I was holding on tight to that spiritual aspect. So me coming to the United States, it took me a while to get back to it because I was away from it for a while. So just to give you a little background as far as the cultural and the spiritual, that's where I come from.
Define spirituality from your perspective, not like a textbook. And then number two, talk about growing up, because I think a lot of people nowadays are expounding upon what religion or spirituality means. For example, perfect example. I was in Home Depot right before the hurricane, and I was gonna get some supplies. And this old lady, I think she was African American, she came up to me. She was with me and Sabrina. And Sabrina's our co-founder of Black Stock Footage, my wife as well. And she was like, "Oh, do you have something we want to feed the kids?" And then she stopped me and she did like a double, a bait and switch. And she said, "Oh, by the way, you want to repent and give your life over to Jesus?" And it was hilarious. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Ma'am," "I don't think I don't believe in Jesus the same way you do." And she's like, "Well, this is just for the kids." And so it's like a script. And she's like, "I such and such to Jesus." And I was like, "Can I say universe?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, when I replace Jesus with universe, the same message was still accurate. So sometimes it's not, again, I don't want to make this about religion or religious context, mm-hmm. but I think if she was okay, she's like, "If you want to say universe, that's okay. I just want to send this message to the kids who've been affected by such and such." And it ended up being a really cool experience because it was a two different perspectives that came together for a united purpose, which I thought was really cool. I thought she was going to say, "Oh, if you can't say Jesus, then you can't say," and that's not the reaction she gave. So getting back to you, what's your definition of spirituality and how has that evolved from being a kid? Because even me growing up as African American and Haitian, I was pulled in between two worlds. Sometimes I wasn't Haitian enough. Sometimes I wasn't African American enough.
Yeah.
So just talking about spirituality, was it always something where you just grew up Christian and you kind of like grew out of that, or it expanded? I'd love just to hear your opinion, how much you want to touch on that.
I was born in Haiti with my grandma, even though my grandma identified as a Christian, but she was still very much in tune with her spirituality. And the difference for us between religion and spirituality is that religion is something outside of you. Religion is a set of doctrine, a set of belief. Religion is dealing with a leader. You're looking up to a religious figure, someone who is the center and someone that you have to go to as a mediator to be able to get to God or the divine. Spirituality is all internal. Spirituality is very subjective. Nobody can't define spirituality for you. Only you can define spirituality for yourself. So that's really the big difference, is that spirituality is internal, religion is external. Now, some people can use religion to kind of eventually tap into their spirituality. And some people, they can leave spirituality and go back to dealing with the external. And I think that's what happened with my grandma. My grandma, she was dabbling into both worlds. And it was something that came so natural to her, I don't even think she thought about it, because our spirituality, and along with our culture, our Haitian culture, is inherited. So I inherited both worlds. I inherited the religious aspect because that's what they were practicing outwardly, but I also inherited the spiritual aspect. That was the state that they were in internally. So I watched the way that they interact with people, the way that they interact with the world, the way that they had respect and reverence for the ancestors, the way that they interact with nature, the way that they appreciated nature and gave nature the ultimate respect. So it was never something that was told to me, this is spirituality. It was something that I observed, and it was something that I felt innately. So as I said earlier, me coming to the United States, I really didn't see that type of spiritual interaction here. So I kind of laid down, like probably went dormant for a little while. But then when I got to high school, that's when I started feeling that spark of my spirituality trying to emerge. And my parents here in the United States, they practice Christianity. And because of their work schedule, because of the different lifestyle that they started living over here, they got more away from nature. It was more work and physically going to church. It wasn't really the interaction with the community, the interaction with nature, and not really trying to connect in that way.
Wow, wow. That's powerful. And I think a lesson for everybody, in my opinion, is find what works for you and then also expound upon that, right? Ask questions. Us as humans, we're always curious, and not just from our five senses, but we
Mm.
have things that we feel,
Yeah.
intuition, that gut feeling like, okay, let me, and it's not necessarily something to be fearful of, because I think I've met a lot of people who are, well, I'm not religious or I'm not spiritual. Like, I'm not trying to make this about spiritual religion, but we live in a time where self-awareness is important. And our self-awareness, we're composed of not just our biology. In our biology, we have ancestors, right? We have people who came before us who've influenced us. We have those genetic markers that we can turn on and off. And I really believe that there's a lot to learn from science. There's a lot to learn from spirituality. And nowadays, I mean, there's articles popping up left and right where they're discovering things that seem spiritual or the religious texts have talked about, and it's based in science now. So it's like there's this mergence. I mean, great thought leaders are talking about this convergence of science and religion or spirituality, and how those things have played out and how they played out thousands of years ago, as these cultures we're rediscovering and saying, wow, they had these science and religion or spiritual practices that it feels like magic. And a lot of that is resurfacing. So that spark, that energy is in us, our ancestral, that DNA, and we're awakening that. And part of Black Stock Footage is being able to explore those different practices, those different base knowledges, because you hold so much. And sometimes a lot of it comes like, well, where did you get that from? Sometimes it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
It comes up. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's an experience you had, an entity or someone talk to you, or it's just your own intuition. So kind of getting into that, just talk to me about growing up in terms of the community of people. Because back when you grew up, between the Haitians and the African Americans, there was a little bit of feud. No, a lot of feud going on, especially in Miami. So just talk about community, talk about identity, because I think that's really important for people to hear, because a lot of people are struggling with identity in terms of, well, am I Haitian? Am I this? The community and cultural aspect. Because America, Miami, we're a melting pot. So it's easy you want Latin food, you could jump right over there. You want Latin culture, jump over there. You want, there's something for everybody. So just talk about growing up. What was that like, experiencing these different cultures?
Wow. I mean, it's a lot, and I'm going to try to narrow it down to a few minutes. Like I said earlier, coming to the United States was a cultural shock for me, because I came from a place where it was 99% or 100% Black people. So coming here, and I'm seeing on a physical level the diversity, because I came here in 1972. So we're talking about way back. And so where I lived in Okai, and where I traveled to Port-au-Prince to come here in terms of the airport, I didn't see, a diverse culture in terms of race, in terms of, I didn't know of any nationalities, because I was only 6 years old. So I had no awareness of that. So when I came here and I heard people speaking different languages, seeing people with different skin tones, people wearing different garments, it was literally a shock. It's like, where do all these people come from? And it took me time to kind of process that. So it made me become more self-aware that I was different. It made me self-aware that something was happening here that wasn't happening over there. And as I began to observe as a child, I noticed a lot of differences among people. And I really didn't know what to make of it, because I was only 6 years old. But as I started going to school, I started interacting with different people, and I realized the differences that we had in terms of the language and the culture and the way of thinking, the way of doing things. For me, it was no problem, because, we're a loving family. We're very accepting of everybody. So it was never said to me that my culture is better or their culture is less. We've never had that type of discussion. My parents never entertained those thoughts. So for me, it was welcoming of everybody. They're different, but the difference was okay. I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have any bad experiences until I got to senior high. And at that time in Miami, we had a smaller Haitian population than we do right now. And a lot of Haitian people were coming in, and we weren't really well established as a community. We had a lot of people coming in, but we didn't all reside in one place. It wasn't called Little Haiti, and we didn't really have a presence in terms of business, in terms of us celebrating our culture publicly. We didn't have that. So everything was done privately between people who knew each other. And of course, the church was the center of that. Now, in the 1980s, when we had a lot of Haitians migrating here, specifically by boat, because prior to 1980s, majority of the Haitians who came through the visa route. They went and they got a visa, and they came to the United States like everybody else. So we didn't really have an influx of refugees. But in the 1980s, when we started having an influx of Haitian refugees, the media started publicizing some real bad things about Haitian people. Because the first thing they always say whenever they mention Haitian people, they would say the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Every time they have a story, it always starts off with the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So the media in the United States, they were basically setting us up to present us as we were the poorest country, we were uncivilized, we were uneducated, we were a poverty-stricken people. So that gave the people here, specifically the African Americans, gave them the impression that we were the lowest, we were at the bottom, that we didn't have all the nice things that they have here, that we didn't have a rich class, we didn't have a middle class, that we didn't have technology, that we didn't have education, we didn't have, intelligence. So because of that misinformation, a lot of African Americans in my community, I can't speak for any other place but where I reside, they assumed that we were the no good people. And they started picking on us. They started calling us boat people. They started calling us dirty. They say that we were no good, that we were stupid, we were dumb. And as the newcomers, we really got harassed. We got bullied. And personally, myself, after school, I used to run. We used to run because they used to try to, bully us, attack us, and hurt us. So we all ran.
So you're saying literally?
Literally, we used to run. Literally, after school, if they identify you as a Haitian, they were going to fight you and they were going to hurt you, because those group of Haitian people who came at that time, they weren't really into fighting. They weren't really into challenging anybody. They weren't trying to stand up for themselves, because they came here just to have a better living. Their families came here to have a better living, to have an opportunity, or just to have a different experience. Because some of us who came earlier in the 1970s, we were well off. We had nice things in Haiti. We just came here for, another experience or another opportunity, or to expand, our opportunities beyond Haiti. So it's a lot of the Haitian people who came in the 70s and the 60s, a lot of them were already established people. And a lot of them would travel back and forth to Haiti. They stay here for a little while, then they go back home. Or if they were here for a long time, their plan was to go back to Haiti and continue their businesses that they had there, build their homes, or go back and retire there. But unfortunately, again, the American social media, they did not present all those great things about us. All they said were all the negative things, and the African Americans, the Latins, and the white people, they stereotyped us. Oh, those Haitians over there, the lowest people, the poorest people, the dirty people. And unfortunately, when some of the refugees were coming from the boats, they would film them. There we go again. And they would show the people who were dirty. They would show the people who were broken, the people who were poor. They would show that. And they would go to Haiti and film the worst part. Because as you know, every country has a ghetto area. Every country has a poverty population. That's pretty much living in abject poverty. I don't care where you go. But the media deliberately went to those poorest section in Haiti. They would film them and come back here and show it to the American people. So because of that misrepresentation of the Haitian people, then we were stereotyped and we were subjected to being bullied. So for us, we would run. Now for me, I learned English very fast, and I didn't speak with an accent. So most people didn't know I was Haitian. They didn't know I was Haitian. The only reason they knew I was Haitian because they heard me speak Creole, and I was obviously connecting and associating with other Haitian people. So after school, I just had to run. And this started in 9th grade. So by the time 10th grade come around, I went to track, I went to cross country because, I got real fast running. And it's so unfortunate. And obviously, it wasn't all African Americans. I just want to put that out there because we had some African Americans who did stand up with us, who did fight with us, say, no, don't do that. They're Black just like us. And so for us, I think coming from a Black country, we don't know anything about racism in terms of Black and white. We don't know. We don't have that concept. We know in terms of language differences, or we know of geographical, because we live in Haiti, but we have the South, we have the North, we have the East. We know that. I'm speaking from a child's perspective because I came from Haiti when I was 6 years old. I'm sure if I grew up in Haiti, of course, a lot of Haitians do travel. They do go to Africa. They do come to the United States. They go to Canada. They go to Asia. They travelers. Wherever you go in the world, you're going to find at least one Haitian. That's just the way it is because we are travelers. We do venture outside of our little area. And there's a lot of Haitians in South America, a lot of Haitians in Cuba, a lot of Haitians in Mexico. We in Canada, we travel a lot. But I'm just saying what I said from a child's perspective. And then I could not tell the difference because at the end of the day, we all were Black. We all were Black. Like I said, you couldn't tell who I was based on how I look. Because there's no such thing as a typical Haitian look because we're so diverse. We go from light skin to dark skin, from high cheekbones. We go from a big bottom to small bottom, tall. We're very diverse. So answering your question, unfortunately, because of the misinformation and the stereotype that the media set out to put out there to create this false narrative, we did suffer in the 1980s and all the 90s. And it didn't stop till probably the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had a new generation of Haitian who came in. Now, they became more assimilated into the African-American culture. And that generation said, no, we're not going to run. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. And, that's when things started changing because they decided to fight back and stand up and be proud of being Haitian because that generation, they knew better because their parents were teaching them, their neighbors were teaching them, other people were letting them know no. But growing up in my generation, we really didn't even share that with our parents what we were going through. So if our parents didn't even know what we were going through. So they couldn't even really do anything about it. So that aspect, unfortunately, we do have racism. And that's basically what it is because they never portrayed any of the other refugees or any other immigrant in that light. So, I didn't understand that, but now I do, obviously. It is due to racism because they really wanted to present us in a negative light so people would not open the door and welcome us and allow us to be part of the American melting pot. We were unwanted. And unfortunately, our people meaning Black people, got the wrong message. Instead of welcoming us and helping us assimilate, they thought that we were a threat. We were coming to get their jobs. We were coming, to look down on them, which was not necessarily true.
It's powerful stuff. And especially now with today, we know what misinformation can do. We know the power of that. It's widely known. Before it was like, oh, conspiracy here and there. Now with technology, it's very out there. So it's important that people understand history. It's important that people understand who you are, where you came from. Because, a lot of other races, if you say, hey, where you come from? Hey, they could point, my first come from Italy and my great. So a lot of us, we lost that, and as Haitian people, I want to make sure we keep that alive. Mm-hmm. Just being able to say, hey, so your grandma, so my great grandma, I want to be able to honor her. And that's part of why I'm doing this interview, because I want to honor you. I want to keep your legacy alive. Mm-hmm. So talking more about you and your story and your journey, talk about being a mother in America, in Miami, raising 5 children, on your own. Let's talk about that because you're, they say independent Black woman, sometimes independent is not by choice, so let's just go into that because I think there's a lot of Black women out there who can learn something from your story as, what that independent looks like and what's actually behind the independency and what comes with that, having to raise 5 children. Let's just start there.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, a lot of the independence that we hear about is not by choice. It's because that we find ourselves in unfortunate situations, things that were out of our control, right? Because initially my plan was to be married, stay married, and raise my 4 sons. That was my plan. I got married when I was 19 years old to my boyfriend that I met in college. And we decided that we're going to get married at a young age due to religious reasons. And we did it. But unfortunately, because we were so young, I was 19, he was 23 years old, and we really didn't have the support in terms of family support to help us understand how to work through our differences and our challenges and our responsibilities as a young couple. We didn't have that. And it's unfortunate because a lot of families, basically, they have a lot of dysfunction within the family. And there's a lot of issues that were never addressed or resolved. And because of that, the children in that family inherit some of that dysfunction, inherit that trauma. And when we start our own families, what we do by default, whatever it is that we witness, no matter it is that what we were exposed to, what we experience as individuals, those things start coming up and we don't know how to handle them. And by default, we start handling them the same way that we saw our parents handle those same problems. And because they were dysfunctional, then the relationship becomes dysfunctional. And that's what's happening around the world, but more so in the American culture, because for the most part, the American culture really promotes more the nuclear family. The Haitian culture promotes more the extended family. And so the extended family wasn't around to give the hand and support that they could have provided, because we live in a society where everybody is busy and everybody's having 2 jobs, everybody's running here, they have this activity, that. So they kind of neglect young couples that are just starting out, and they pretty much kind of say, hey, you're on your own. And then, and nobody's checking up on you to say, how you doing? How y'all doing? It's like, hey, you all are married now, do what you got to do. And because of that, a lot of things that could have been addressed and resolved, and the relationship could have kind of overcome those challenges, we didn't have that support. So that's what happened, that I ended up being a single mother, because I ended up divorcing my husband because of problems that we had that we didn't know how to resolve. In all fairness, we both were young. Well, we were inexperienced. We didn't know how to handle things in the right way. And because of that, we end up splitting up. And I end up being a single mother of 4 sons. And I knew that was going to be a challenge, and I was prepared for it. I was prepared for it because I knew that I made that commitment, not to the marriage, but to my sons, because the commitment to the marriage was over. And there's nothing that I could have done to pretty much stop that. The marriage was over. So once I got the divorce, my commitment was no longer to the marriage. My commitment now was entirely focused on raising my sons. And I gave my sons 150% of me. I gave them everything. And I took that very seriously. And I knew that because I took that responsibility at a young age, I knew that I pretty much, sealed my faith, in the sense that there are certain things that I won't be able to do at that time, because my focus and priority was my children. Right. So to address that independence, I cannot understand why any woman would choose to be a single mother. I didn't choose that. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't work out, and I had to leave because it was what was best for me to leave. Because a lot of parents think that, well, we're going to stick together, we're going to work it out, even if we don't like each other, even if we can't get along, we're just going to be together just for the children. But that may not necessarily be a good option, because the children being there, they're watching how the parents interact. They're seeing there's no love. They're seeing there's no respect. They're seeing there's no unity. They're seeing there's no compassion, no empathy. They're watching this. And I didn't want my children growing up in that environment to see that. I'd rather them see that two people tried and it didn't work, and they were in that position to agree that they need to separate. So that's where I was at. So I gave my children everything. And one thing about me is that I was young. I didn't know much, but I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of research. I like to pick the brains of older people. And I have to talk about my mother. My mother was a very good mother. She was a very good example to me as far as hardworking, self-sacrificing, and giving unconditional love. My mother, she showed me that. She didn't tell me that, she showed me that. And I was raised in a family that was very progressive. We were always trying to grow. My father was an entrepreneur, a self-made man. He was an entrepreneur. I mean, he was originally a mechanic. He went from a mechanic to a businessman. And he went from owning one ship to owning 3 ships, traveling from here to Haiti, a big cargo ship. He did very well for himself. And my mother, she was a seamstress, and she was very creative. And my father was very, very, very creative as well. And so I'm fortunate that I inherited both sides, a lot of creativity, a lot of determination, and very, very ambitious, not in the way where I'm trying to accumulate $1 million. I don't see myself as being ambitious in that way, but ambitious in the sense where I'm always trying to achieve a goal, whether it was a small little goal or a medium-sized goal or a big goal. I'm always progressive because I was raised in that family where I saw people being progressive. And I saw people challenging themselves to go to the next level, especially my father. My father was amazing. I mean, I had a real special relationship with my father. I emulated my father in many ways. And in terms of the way that he was as a man, in terms of his hard work and dedication. I mean, if he started something, he's going to finish it. He's definitely going to finish it. And both of them taught me a lot. My mother taught me how to be a mother, and my father taught me how to be a well-versed person. So I say all that to say that I was equipped to raise 4 sons because of my background, because of what I learned, because what I did as a child. You know, I mean, I was cooking for my whole entire family at 10 years old. I was going to the laundry, doing the laundry for my entire family. I was helping my father as a mechanic when, you know, I was helping my father as a welder. I was helping my father as a businessman. So I was always hands-on, you know. So because of that background, so when I found myself a single mother, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. You know, I mean, this is nothing new to me. I'm used to working. I'm used to taking responsibility. And growing up, I love children. So I'm always trying to take care of somebody's child. So because of that, you know, I felt like I was fairly equipped, you know, to do a good job. And I'm going to stop right here. And like I said, majority of things that I didn't know, I learned. I cannot emphasize the importance of always being open to learning. I read a lot of books about parenting. Again, I asked a lot of older people who had children who were very successful or children who were just normal children, but they were healthy. I asked them, how did you do that? What do you do? And then I observed. And so I took all that in, and I decided that I was going to raise my sons in a healthy, productive way. I was going to teach them how to have self-respect, self-love, self-discipline, and self-empowerment. I wanted to teach them to contribute something back to humanity, contribute something back to the community, contribute something back to the family. I wanted them to leave their footprint on this planet. When they leave here at 90, I want the world to remember them because they did things to make a difference, to make this world better. So at a very young age, I pretty much knew that's what I was here to do.
It's beautiful because you were self-aware and from a feminine, divine feminine aspect, as a child, because they say a therapist and a lot of scientists, they say a lot of our mindset is formulated from by the time we're age 7. So a lot of things we can pinpoint why I am who I am now because of something that happened in my childhood.
Yeah.
So one question people typically ask, what was the one thing that you can remember from your childhood that was a very definitive moment? And usually everybody can look back to one or two things that are like, yeah, I really remember that thing creating an impact on me. And that affected my personality, my outlook on life, or things like that, whether it's positive or negative.
Absolutely.
So it goes both ways. So talking about children, talking about mindset, I know you said self-awareness, self-love, wanting to give back. What do you think that, kind of talking about today's times, that you see, and I say this not because you're just a mother, but you also have worked in different departments and different organizations that deal with mothers, children's, families. You've worked in some of those things throughout your career. Talk about what are some of the things that you see that are missing from the Black community, from our community specifically. What are some of those things that you're missing, and what has been the outcome, whether positive or negative, but probably negative? What are some of those things? Because I think we hear bad things happen, right? We hear, such and such that happened, that person is in a shelter, or something negative happened. But what do you think are the principles, values, or whatever those things are that are missing that could have helped that person, that family, that community go a better, or end up having a better outcome?
That is a very deep question, and I know we don't have that long for me to answer. I think the most important thing, and I've always emphasized on that, is family. Family is the foundation of any society, any community, any nation, because everything starts in the family. I think that as a community, we need to pay attention to what's happening in the family, because the family produces the next generation. And if we are having problems within the family, if it's domestic violence, if it's toxic or dysfunctional behavior, if it's neglect, if it's abandonment, any type of problems we're having in the family, it's going to have an immediate and direct impact on every member of that family. And if we want to produce better citizens, better people, better human beings, we have to start making the family a priority. Start putting the resources into the family to teach the family how to be healthier. Because unfortunately, the main thing that causes family disturbances as a problem is domestic violence. And people think domestic violence is something only on the physical level, where somebody is physically beating somebody or somebody is sexually abusing somebody. Most families don't physically beat on each other or sexually abuse each other, even though we do have that. But the majority of the time, it's more emotional abuse, mental abuse, and verbal abuse. Putting each other down, not acknowledging each other's worth and value. That is the problem. And of course, the family is not an island. The family is not somewhere isolated. Okay, the family is part of a community. The community is part of a nation. And the problem is, we have a problem in human relationship. Human beings are not taught how to value each other, how to acknowledge each other's worth, how to communicate with each other. You see, how to bond, how to connect. Because we don't have that, that's what leads to all the problems we have in society. You see, so we need to go back to the basics, and we need to understand the importance and value of family and make family a top priority and invest all the money, all the resources, all the effort into getting the family to be healthy and whole. Because for me personally, that's what I try to do. I tried my best. Whatever mistakes that my parents made, whatever flaws or faults or weaknesses that they had, I was able to observe some of them, and I was able to see if there's any of those things within myself. And I said, you know what? My children, I'm going to do things differently. I don't think that we do that enough. Before we have children, before we go into a relationship, we need to be able to become self-aware and understand what is happening to us. What happened to us when we were our families? Before we get in a relationship, before we have children, how can we address those issues and resolve them before we move on to start having relationships and having children? And if we're able to do that, I think that will definitely curtail the level of domestic violence we see, the level of toxic and dysfunctional relationships and families. So, I mean, it starts with the family. And I'm the perfect example. By all means, I should have been another statistic. A Black woman raising 4 sons in Miami, Florida. We should have been another statistics. But I did everything within my ability to make sure that we weren't another statistic. And I have to, again, give credit to my extended support, because I wasn't able to do this by myself. I did have my mother, who was very involved. She was there talking to me, encouraging me, guiding me. Those days when I was like, oh, I don't think I could do this, she was there. Yes, you can. She was encouraging me. Those days when I had to go to work, she was a support system for me. She'll take the children and watch them for me. When I needed a little break, being a single mother all by myself, she was able to watch you all for a couple hours for me. Had my brothers and my cousins step up to be a male role model when my children needed a male role model. So again, it goes back to the family. We have to have an extended family, and that extended family provides extended support, because that nuclear family, mother and father, is not sufficient. We need to go back to the old days where it took a whole village to raise a child. It literally takes a whole village, because one parent cannot do it all. Even 2 parents can't even do it all. Can you imagine one person? So that's where I found myself. So I realized what my situation was at the time. And I said, I don't want my children to be another statistics. I don't want to be another statistics. So I made it my business to find the support that I needed for my family. And if I can get knowledge and awareness, how to help my children, how to help them stay focused. And I was able to introduce them to different type of activities to keep their attention. I introduced them to different sports, and I actually played each and every sport with them. And I put them in summer camps. Most importantly, I was able to give them an extensive library. I always had a whole range of books about all kind of topics, and we had daily meetings where we would eat, whether if it was dinner time, breakfast time, lunch, whatever opportunity we had, we spent a lot of time together. We talked a lot. We talked about everything. And that's something that I didn't have within my family because of the culture. Children weren't allowed to speak to their parents about any subject. And I realized that we live in a different culture now. We live in a different time. And parents needed to have that connection with their children in terms of communication, to know how they feel, what they think, what they want, and just give them an opportunity to learn something and to share. So for me, that's something that I felt like I had to incorporate in my family, raising my children, that opportunity to talk to them, to connect with them, to bond with them. To me, that was very special, because I knew the day would come that everybody would become a man and they would have their own separate lives, doing their own things, and I would not have that opportunity to have everybody at the table at the same time. Now, to wrap this up, I did end up getting married again, and I ended up having a daughter, so that's how I ended up getting 5 children instead of 4. And unfortunately, that relationship didn't work because, again, there's different dynamics. When you were married before and You know, you were single for a long time. I was single for 9 years, being by myself, raising my children. And when you try to get into another marriage, sometimes, you know, that can create conflicts and that can create problems, especially if that person is not ready to come into an already made family. If that person is not ready to be at a certain mindset. And sometimes people could tell you that they're ready, but in actuality, when they get in it, they're not ready or they're not willing to live as a family. Because as a family, I've already established my family values. I've already established my family, you know, routine. The root of the family is already well established. So somebody else coming in, you know, they have to fit into that. Even though I was flexible and I was able to, hey, you know, we could bend here, live, but then you can only bend so much because I, as a mother, still have to uphold a certain value. I can't just throw all my values out the door just because I'm married, or throw my lifestyle out the door just because I'm married. So that individual thought that they could come in and be a blended family. And it's a challenge sometimes. I learned that it's a challenge. You know, people have their different lifestyle, their different ways, and coming into a blended family, you know, may not be necessarily what they want. You know, I mean, it obviously can be done, but it is something that you have to make a commitment to doing. And some people don't want to do that, which is perfectly fine because that's part of the journey.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and telling us about your background. And I think you summing it up, because sometimes it's not necessarily got to go to every specific detail.
Yeah.
But the synopsis, the summary of what you're saying is impactful. It's definitely going to be resonant to other folks out there, especially women who are hearing this, and then hopefully men who are listening to go, oh man, wow, okay, maybe I need to look out for that. Okay, how am I? Maybe I'm going into a blended family. Okay, what should I be looking at? You know, one person I know, or a few people I know who did get into a relationship with a mother who had children, and they are working it out. And we need to see more of that.
Absolutely.
Because there are women who did go through things, you know, and then let's not forget the men as well. There's sometimes men raising those single father, raising children. So we want to pay respects to both of those, but then also, okay, and which leads me to my next point. What do you think is or are some actionable items in today's times that either women or men, but specifically women in this case, from your perspective, can start doing, where maybe they're not doing some, you know, certain things? What can they be doing? Maybe 2 or 3 things that can really help to change themselves now in today's times.
The first thing is self-awareness. I mean, that is something that is very crucial to any type of personal development growth, you know, is self-awareness. I think that as women, because I'm dealing with women now, and of course men, everything I say about a woman obviously can also apply to a man. And specifically dealing with women, self-awareness. I think that a lot of women are so caught up being a mother, being a wife, being a girlfriend, you know, being a support to other people, and they tend to neglect themselves. They tend to give everything they have to other people and not really take the time to give back to themselves. So I think that as women, we need to become more self-aware of who we are, what we are, where we come from, what happened to us. Because unfortunately, women go through a lot, especially when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to sexual assault, rape, incest, when it comes to just sexual harassment. Women go through a lot. And I think that as Black women, we are overlooked and we are underestimated and we're not given our credit. Because the Black woman is basically the cornerstone or the foundation of the Black community. And the media has done us a lot of disservice, intentionally, of course, presenting Black women as the lowest of the low in terms of, you know, that we're gold diggers and we're ratchet and, you know, we're promiscuous and, you know, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. Unfortunately, we do have some Black women who are like that. The same way we have some Asian women who are like that, some white women who are like that, you know, some Indian women who are like that. I mean, women in general, you know, you're going to have a percent of the women population that's going to be dysfunctional because women have been exposed to a lot of trauma a lot of pain, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of neglect. Because of that, you're going to have women who have a lot of problems. But when it comes to Black women, we have so much strength. We have so much resiliency. We're so creative. I mean, because of our distinct history in this country and in the world, because of our experience with chattel slavery. I mean, we weren't acknowledged as a woman. Our femininity was denied. Okay, during slavery, they said we weren't women because we worked just as hard as the men. We were beat down just like the men. We were raped just like the men were raped, even though they won't talk about that. We carried the burden. We had to take care of the outside, and then we had to come home and be a woman. Still had to nurture our children, take care of our children, be there for our husbands. Black women have always played those multiple roles, and we had to wear those different hats. But we're not giving credit for that. We're not giving credit for that. If anything, credit is taken away from us. And for me, my journey as a Black woman, I had to learn through self-awareness of all the things that impact me as a Black woman, and all the things that impacted my mother as a Black woman, what impacted my grandma as a Black woman, what impacted my great-grandma. So when I look at our history and what we've been through, specifically the trauma that we've been through, I can understand why we're hurting. I can understand why, we are different from other women, because we were exposed to different things. And instead of looking at that as a bad thing, I look at that as we survived it. We made it. And no matter how much they try to strip us of our femininity, we still are very feminine. And they try to strip us of our love, we still are very loving. We still are very nurturing, even though at times we have to be strong. And to answer your question before about that independent Black woman, I mean, we're not independent Black woman because we want to be. We're that because we didn't have a choice, because we didn't have the protection that other women had. We didn't have the privilege that other women had. We didn't have the luxury that other women had. So we had to be strong. We were forced to be strong in that way. But unfortunately, some Black men, not all, obviously we have some wonderful, beautiful, loving, strong, compassionate Black men, such as my 4 sons. And I'm so proud of you all, for being the men that you all are, for respecting and loving a woman. Starting with respecting and loving your mother, and you all never judge me. In anything that I've been through, you are always respectful, always loving, always supportive, always understanding. And I appreciate that. And for me, I knew that I did a great job. No matter how many times I questioned myself, did I do enough? Did I teach them everything? But then when I see you all now, I said, you all are amazing people. You all chose to listen to my guidance, to my support, to my knowledge. And I appreciate that. But getting back to me as a Black woman, I had to learn myself and not listen to the media, not listen to his story, not listen to the negative stereotypes and the narratives that they have about Black women. And I had to become more self-aware, and I had to do the research. I had to tap into my own spirituality. I had to be able to heal myself. So the advice that I would give to any woman is to become more self-aware, and not just self-aware again of who you are right now, self-aware of where you come from, your background, your roots. You know what I'm saying? Your ancestral connections. It's very important for us to go back and find out, not just looking at the bad. Yes, we inherited a lot of trauma, a lot of pain. That's why a lot of Black women suffer from depression. It's not just we're dealing with the current situation of sexism and racism. We're also dealing with what we inherited. It's called intergenerational trauma, epigenetics. All of that, as Black women, we wear it on our shoulders. When you see a Black woman, she's frowning. You're like, well, what's wrong with her? You don't know what's happening to her now. And you don't know where she come from. That lineage of women, what trauma did they experience? What happened to them that nobody has ever addressed in attempt to heal? So self-awareness is definitely the master key to personal growth and development. So as women, we have to learn to invest in ourselves. And as much as we're willing to give to other people, we have to take a little time out to nurture ourselves, to heal ourselves and to love ourselves. And the last thing I'm going to say about that, I think as women, we need to come together. We need to have unity. And a lot of women, because of their trauma, because of their own personal insecurities, they find it very hard to connect and build with other women because there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of miscommunication. We need to be able to work through that because as women, we need to be able to help each other. We can serve as a mirror for each other, not to judge and condemn and bring each other down, but to empower each other, to heal each other. Because it's very important that we get that feminine nurturing and love. I think women, we don't get that from each other. And sometimes we don't even get that from our own mothers. So it's very important that we become self-aware of what we need. Not just what we want, what we need and what's important for us to heal and to grow and to be able to build a community of women so we can have the support that we need. Now, the men, the same thing. Self-awareness is from a different angle, but the men need to come together as well. Black men in our communities need to come together as well and provide the leadership because the women have to do all that work because unfortunately we're lacking good male leadership in our communities, unfortunately, and we understand the same trauma that the women, black women went through, black men went through the same trauma, that degradation, that oppression, the abuse, they were subjected to the same thing. And they still were expected to be the man and to function as the man and to take the role of the man when they were systematically denied those opportunities. They weren't able to prepare the same way the other men were prepared for manhood. They weren't, they weren't given that opportunity. And again, not every black man. We have a good amount of black men who are very prepared and who do provide that leadership, who do provide the support. We just need more. We just need more. And I think a lot of women, right now, I'm going to end it right here, it's like we need male leadership, not for a man to tell us what to do. We need that support. We need that guidance. We need that help. We need that assistance. Okay, we weren't meant to be alone. There's no such thing, well, I don't need a man. I don't need a woman. As human beings, we're social creatures. We're meant to live in a social setting. We're meant to live under a partnership. So we do need each other. And the only reason that we're saying that is because of the pain, because of the trauma, because of the insecurities, because of all the negative things that impact us from slavery until now. The black family is basically broken down and we need healing. So that's just self-awareness for healing.
Continue the conversation. We discussed your background. We discussed your upbringing. Discussed your local community. We discussed you being a mother. Now we're going to transition. Dive into a little bit more about what you're doing, right? What you're doing for your community, your next chapter. We talked about you as a child. What are you up to nowadays, and how does that reflect on the person that you are, right? So you have this level of self-awareness, a level of spirituality. What is that now? So define your spirituality or your spiritual practice or your ideology. What is that now, and how is that reflective of your next chapter of you? Not as Tica Taylor, the mother, but Tica Taylor as the Black woman you are today. What's your next chapter, and what are you doing today?
Now, basically right now, I'm in a very good place. I am starting Ujama Spirit Temple. This is a place where anybody who practices indigenous spirituality can come together and they can unify and be able to share their spiritual experiences.
That's awesome.
Let me just give you a little bit more information about that. In 2012, I decided to pursue my spirituality on a full-time basis, meaning that actually choose a particular spiritual practice. Because as I said before, spirituality is an individual thing, and you can express your spirituality, you can enter a state of spirituality, you can share your spirituality however you want. It's not, identify with a set of doctrines. But in 2012, I decided I wanted to study different type of indigenous spirituality. I wanted to do that. I wanted to know what are my options because I'm feeling a certain way inside. The spirit is manifesting in me. I have a spiritual awakening. I mean, I'm channeling, I'm getting all type of messages. And, I want to know what's going on. How can I be able to connect with other people who are like-minded? So I went on a spiritual journey and I was able to explore Buddhism, Hinduism, and look a little bit into First Nation, Native Americans. I kind of study a little bit of everything. And ultimately, I decided that what I identify with the most is Christ consciousness, which goes back to the ultimate self-awareness and self-awareness of my own divinity and doing the work to tap into my higher self. And that pretty much kind of described what I was feeling and what my journey was looking like. So I decided more to align myself with activating my Christ consciousness, which the Christ has nothing to do with historical figure. It has a lot to do with tapping into my own divine nature and allowing me to go from the bottom to the top, so to speak, activate my Christ consciousness. And I incorporated that with my ancestors, with my culture, because anything that I do, I want to make sure that I'm able to incorporate my culture into it, which is very important to me. So to answer your question, in 2012, I decided instead of me and my family only doing the work, I decided to open the door to other people who switch from Western religion to indigenous spirituality. So at this time, I do have Ujama Spirit Temple, which is open to other indigenous people who want to come in and practice. Now, what that looks like, we don't have a set of doctrines. We don't have a set of belief. It's open. If a person identifies as a Buddhist, they can come here, and we do have different Buddhist practices that we use. We do the sound and the sound healing. We do the chanting. We do the mantras, the mudras. We can do that at our services because it is an open forum to all indigenous practices. We also incorporate Hinduism. If you want to pray to Ganesha, you want to do that, we have no problem. We open to voodoo. If you want to come in and deal with the ancestors, the orishas, we're open to that. If you want to do First Nation, you want to pay homage to the land and to the ancestral spirits or the spirits of the animals, we're into everything. There is no wrong, there's no right. We just use different spiritual tools, and we give other people the opportunity to tap into it as well. Because for me, if I'm into Christ consciousness, I may not necessarily, go into Buddhism. But if there are Buddhism elements to here, I can use that tool in order for me to enhance my spirituality. So at this time, that's really my main focus right now. It's to operate Ujama Spirit Temple.
It's really cool because it feels very inviting.
Yes.
And I think people on their spiritual journey want to feel a part of something. Because again, it can be lonely. You can go, whoa, none of this is what I thought it was, or there's a period of maybe rejection. And then it's like, well, that's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to find someone and something where you can go and find community. Again, that's what we're talking about.
Yes. Building community.
What's the new community going forward as old systems and structures are not suitable. They're no longer, that energy is no longer sustainable. So that is really cool that you created something of that nature where, like, can you talk about that? Like you have, people can actually rent out your venue, or is that still something that you're doing, or can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. I am just so excited about Ujama Spirit Temple because Ujama Spirit Temple is a sacred place for anybody who identifies as an indigenous person and who is engaged in indigenous spirituality. And basically, it's a community center as well. So it's not just some place where we come, we do our spiritual work. It's some place where we come, we do have other activities. We have gatherings, we have parties, we have lectures, we have movies, we have documentaries. So we want to build a community. We don't want people who decide that they no longer want to engage in Western religion for them to feel isolated. for them to be rejected by family and friends, they are already in a state of solitude or aloneness. So this place is for the people who want to build with other like-minded spiritual people. So we have so much to offer, and it is a growing community. Bring yourself here, and whatever it is that you have to offer on a spiritual level, your heart is in the right place. You have a strong moral background. We're open. So we do offer the option to rent the space. We have a background. We have a yard space. We have rooms. If you want to have an event here that's spiritually inclined. And, we welcome you. We welcome you. You can rent the space, and we could collaborate. We can work on certain spiritual projects together. We just want to build a community. So it's not just about coming here and going home. It's about coming here and connecting with the people here, building relationships with the people here, interacting, and also being able to extend yourself. So this community involves services. If you are a business owner within the spiritual community, we want to be able to work with you. We want to be able to access your services, pay for your services. We want to be able to establish a barter system. You have this talent, I have this talent. We can exchange. We want to be able to provide a resource center. If you need resources, spiritual resources, come here and get it. We want to be able to provide healing centers. You know you're not feeling too good spiritually. You need some energetic healing. We want to have sound healing. We want to have spiritual baths here. We want to have spiritual massages. We want to have chakra balancing. We want to have all the spiritual practitioners offer their services to here. You can rent this place to bring other people here, or you could actually, give a particular service here, and we have people here who come and want to be part of that. So, the possibilities are endless, but I just want people to know that we are here. And as you said earlier, we're living at a time where we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of instability. We have a lot of confusion. We have a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and people don't know where to go. So I just want the world to know that Ujama Spirit Temple in Miami, Florida, we're here. And we want to build a community. We want to be able to connect with like-minded people. And a lot of times when you are spiritual, like you said, it could be a very lonely journey because people don't understand you. People think you're weird. They feel you're strange. Sometimes they call you eccentric. They think that you're just a weirdo. But there are other people who are just like you, and we're not weird. We're not strange, and we're not crazy. So I think that's just one of the main reasons why I wanted to create this temple, because I think all the other cultures have a place they can go to. A person who is a Buddhist, they can go to a Buddhist temple. A person who is a Muslim can go to a Muslim mosque. But a person who's spiritual, meaning that you're incorporating all of the spiritual traits and the spiritual abilities into your practices, where do you go? Because you're not really this or that. You're a collaborate. You're a combination of all of that. You want to be able to dabble and reach out to any of the spiritual tools and use it for yourself. You don't want to be labeled, or you don't want to be put in a box. You don't want your spirituality to be capped or limited. For me, it's all encompassed. It's comprehensive. It's holistic. So where do I go to be comfortable around different people who engage in different spiritual practices? I didn't find that anywhere. So I decided to open the temple to everybody. Instead of me just doing it with me and my family and my small circle, I wanted to open it to anybody around the world. If they're ever in Miami, Florida, or they do live here and they want a home, a spiritual home, I want them to come and be part of the community.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your background, your knowledge, your divine feminine energy and wisdom with us. It's very, very much appreciated. And I know the audience is going to have a positive reception, because we need to hear these different perspectives, these different ways of doing things that is not necessarily new, but sometimes they're siloed and you can't find it. And just being able to listen to your story is inspiring, it's motivating. And I know other women, men as well, but I know other women are going to go, wow, ooh, I was thinking about that or heard of that. And finally, there's someone who's been practicing or went down that road before, and I can learn something from her. And that's what black stock footage is. When we say film the culture, it's not just about the individual person. It's the perspectives, the things that you've been through matter, the things that you've experienced. You have that insight, and somebody else is going to have another insight that is maybe a little similar, maybe a little different, but it's something that we can learn from it and amalgamate that together. And to collectively, it makes us better, helps to push the conversation forward, push the dialogue forward. And then also it shows that there are resources in the community, not necessarily, they don't have to be billion-dollar resources with the brand name and celebrity endorsements, but they could be right there in your backyard, and you might just be driving past that street every day. So that's my job with Black Stock Footage when we say from culture to content. It's to explore these nuances, to get in, to ask some questions. I wish I could spend, well, number one, I grew up with you, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But being able to spend this time with you is just refreshing, and to be on the other side and not just as me being a child or a son, but to hear your insights as just me as a storyteller.
This is very important because spirituality is the basis of everything. Spirituality is in everything. We can't separate spirituality. When I keep saying you being spiritual, it's all in terms of being spiritually aware that you're being spiritual. You know what I'm saying? It's because we are spiritual whether we know it or not. You know, spirituality is a state of being, a state of existence, but it's just consciously being aware of your spiritual state. And I wanted to say this temple is about family. We are family orientated. It's very important. It's about mother, father, and child, because the family is everything. And we want to promote family values. We want to be able to help people save their marriages, help people heal their families. We want to be able to keep the community together. We want to be able to promote what is loving, what is positive, what is righteous, because we live in a world now, anything goes. People want to do whatever they want. And we're not here trying to be a moral judge. We're not here trying to make people conform. We want to deal with the people who acknowledge that there's a universal law. You know, there's spiritual law. And we want to make sure that we adhere to those spiritual laws, not because we have to, because we're being forced, we're afraid of punishment, we're afraid of going to hell. You know, we don't believe in those things as spiritual beings. We want to be able to tap into the spiritual laws to be balanced and to be holistic and to be healthy and to be able to come together and work as a community. So anything that may be detrimental to that, you know, accomplishing that goal of family, of unity, of community, and building and advancing and growing, we really don't adhere to that. You see? So I just want to put that out there, because sometimes when people think spirituality, they think, oh, anything goes. But we do have spiritual principles and spiritual laws that we do adhere to. So I just want to make sure it's not come and do whatever you want. You know, we're disciplined enough to understand that we're governed by a universal spiritual law. And nobody is forcing you to do that, but that's something that you willingly adhere to because you want to create that balance. Because we see in the world right now, we don't have that spiritual structure. We don't have that moral structure. Okay? And we're veering away from that natural structure that we normally have. We're veering away from that. And here at Ujama Spiritual Temple, we want to make sure that we get back to that. And once we get back to those natural spiritual principles, those universal principles, we can start healing our families, healing our children, healing men and women, bringing the community back together. We could do that together as a community. And the word Ujima means collective work and responsibility. So this is not a show. This is not someplace you come to be entertained. This is not a place you come, you know, just for people to just inform you. This is a place you come to engage, to build, to share, and to have a vision of a better tomorrow, because we are entering another age, another cycle. We are building a new earth. And the people who are spiritual, you know, they pretty much are detached from the old world, and they're pioneers, such as yourself. You are a pioneer. You're building resources for the new earth. And I think that's what we really need to keep focus on, that we don't need to build for the old world, because the old world is leaving. You know, everything is crumbling, everything is falling. Right now, we're building for the new world. We're building things that are sustainable. And if something is sustainable, that means it's healthy. If it's healthy, that means it's good for you. And that's what we're all about. That's what we're promoting. And I just want to throw it out there. PGB, progressively getting better. We're not trying to go back, because where we came from, we learned, we grew, and it made us who we are. But we're visionaries. We're moving forward, and we want to create a new earth, a planet where we do have the love, the unity, the peace that we all want.
Hey, kind of just touching on that, wrapping this up real quick, talk to me about the importance of Black stock footage and what we're doing in our mission. This is, I want to make sure people understand it from different perspectives, because I can say I know what the mission is, but from your own wisdom, your own knowledge, unscripted, I'm not feeding you anything. Just tell people what's the importance of Black stock footage and the mission that we're doing, and really helping to bridge that gap between Black representation, creative storytelling, culture. Just tell me from your own perspective in a minute or two what that means to you.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing because as Black people, again, like I said earlier, we have been stereotyped. We have been put into this narrative where all of our negative attributes are overemphasized. And the world has seen us in a negative light. And those people who are showing us in a negative light usually don't look like us, so they're able to benefit or profit off our negative images and stereotype. And they're making money, making us look bad, right? And because that's happening, sometimes we feel powerless, because we don't really have a say-so, because there's no other alternative. So they're going to show us being pimps and being gangsters and being murderers and strippers and prostitutes and, showing us being single mothers. But that's just a small fragment of our population. We have a whole group of people who are doing so many wonderful things that go unnoticed. And we don't have nobody to tell our story, because unfortunately, the media, they don't want to show us in those lights, because that won't sell. They don't want to show us as mothers raising children. They don't want to show us as fathers parenting their children. They don't want to show us as entrepreneurs. They don't want to show us as scientists. They don't want to show us, engage in diversified areas. They don't want to do that, because that's not beneficial to them. That's not feeding the narrative that they want to promote. So, again, it takes us to be able to change that narrative. They can keep doing what they're doing, because we can't stop that. We can't control them. They could keep doing it, but we need someone to counteract that. And that's why we need our own platforms to tell our own stories. And that's why when you told me that you were going to do Black stock footage, I was so happy. I was overwhelmed. I said, please do that, because we need our stories to be told. We need to present ourselves to the world the way that we want to present ourselves. We don't need someone to control the narrative. We don't need someone to control our images. We don't need someone to tell the world who we are. We need to tell our own story. So as part of being responsible for our own destiny, it takes a person like you to say, hey, I'm going to step forward. I'm going to do it. I'm going to produce the Black stock footage that is needed. So when they want to show us, they're going to have to show us in a positive light. And they can't complain and say, we can't find any. And that has been the narrative for too long. Oh, we can't find it. Oh, we would show you all not doing this now. But where is it? We can't find it. Now, we do have things of celebrities. We have things of people who are famous. Whether you're an athlete, you're an entertainer, you're a politician. Yeah, we do have some stock footage of those things. But what happens to the everyday person that's showing that? Because other people, other races or nationalities, and they're doing that. They're showing their people an everyday regular thing. So if you see one bad image, that's just one bad thing. But us, we see a whole lot of bad and we don't see too many good. So we do need someone to come and actually have a platform where the advertisers, the media, the entrepreneurs, they can take these positive stock footage and show us in a positive light. That, now there's no question about it, or it don't exist. Because I'm not going to mention any names. I've been on a lot of social media platforms where they do have advertisement and they do have stock footage. I don't see too many Black people there. And we're talking about a well-known platform, many well-known platforms. They don't include positive images of Black people in their selection. They don't. So if there's a problem, you don't depend on somebody else to solve it. You solve it. And that's why I am so proud of you. And I can say congratulations a million times. I know this has been a very long journey for you. This is something that you started from the bottom, that you're growing it. And, you know, you have done an amazing job. You have done an amazing job. And for me, I see that as something that's long overdue. And it took someone very special to do it. Someone who's passionate about it. Someone who wants to give something back to the community. Someone who wants to improve the condition of the people. So Black stock footage is not just stock footage. It is about the culture. It is about the narrative of who and what we are coming from someone who looked like us. So that is something that we don't have. And we would think that we would have it because we do have Black nations. We have Black island, Caribbeans. We have Black Africa. But yet nobody's taken the time to really do this. And, again, it blows my mind that I couldn't find it. But when you brought up the idea, I'm like, whoa, yeah. And anybody who's a content creator, anybody who's into any type of advertisement or social media, they'll tell you, hell, we need that.
Why is it important for other creators? Because I can do my part, right? My part is to trailblaze, to be that president almost, right? The CEO, set the infrastructure and systems, but I can't do it by myself. We need to unify. Please talk to me just in a few words of why it's important for other creators to go ahead and monetize and submit their content, whether they're doing business or lifestyle, whatever those things are. Why is it important for other creators to join in and also to fuel this movement of Black stock footage?
I'm going to repeat the same thing, what I said about the baby, the children. We need a whole village to raise a child. And Black stock footage is your brainchild, is your creative child. But you cannot raise this child by yourself. This is an idea that you bring to the world. That idea is a product of your imagination. It's your baby. You cannot do this by yourself. It's a community effort. And you're not doing it just to monetize it for yourself, just to gain as an entrepreneur. You're doing it to build a culture of Black love, Black acceptance, Black empowerment. We're lacking that. So any creator, anybody who is doing any type of project and they want to include Black people in it, they have to be able to create the platform where they can have the resources available to be able to, get whatever you put in, that's what you get out. So if the Black creators don't want to film Black content, they can't complain when the big companies decide that they're going to show a negative image of us, or they keep showing the same repetitive thing over and over. Those Black creators, they cannot complain about it because then they become part of the problem. It's two things. Either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So I think that the first thing is awareness. I go back to the self-awareness. The fact that you created this company, it brings awareness to the problem. Because a lot of people can kind of, think like, yeah, we may have a problem, but they don't understand how severe the problem is. They don't understand what effects come from that. The fact that you're doing it and now you're giving people an option, they realize that they didn't have too much option. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute. It's like you don't know until you're in it. So now that you created this company, a lot of people, once they become aware of it, it would definitely be an amazing thing for them to step and join your platform to be a content creator, because obviously you cannot do this work by yourself. You cannot do this work by yourself. It takes a village. It goes back to Ujima. Collective work and responsibility. In building a community, we need collective work. We need everybody in the community to be responsible. It cannot be a one-man show. And that's why it's important for other creators to say, hey, I want to be part of this narrative. I want to be part of this storyline. I want to be able to change the image. We can no longer sit here and blame other people for not creating positive image of us. We cannot continue with that same narrative because we're failing to take responsibility to be able to present the images that we want the world to see. So anybody who becomes self-aware of this problem they need to take responsibility to contribute to changing that. So that's why I think that is just getting the word out there, because once you get the message out there, I am positive that there are so many people who were thinking the same thing that you were thinking as a content creator. I can't find nothing. And they didn't have the time or the resources or the ability to do what you did. Maybe a lot of people wanted to do what you're doing right now, but they just weren't in the position to do it. The fact is you did it. Now all you have to do is let those people know, hey, we have a platform that you could join in and you can contribute to making this platform as big as you want it to be. So that's just, my take on it. And I personally want to contribute because I do modeling myself. And I want to be able to contribute positive images of Black women with their natural beauty. And I'm not in any way judging anybody else if they don't want to wear their hair natural, if they don't want to present themselves in their natural state. I'm not judging anybody. If they want to do that, that's beautiful as well. But I want to be able to see more Black women with their natural hair, with their natural body type, especially older Black women, because I'm now an elder. And I want to see more positive images of Black women. I don't want them to, show pictures of women in their 60s in the bed with arthritis, with diabetes. They're just, no, I want to show Black women like me who are, fit, who are exercising, who are a vegetarian, they're eating healthy, they're socially active, they're going to dance, they're going to the museum, they're going to cultural events, they're coming to spiritual events. I want that image to be shown of Black women. And so therefore, I'm taking the responsibility to be part of Black stock footage and allowing you to film that content of me because I want the world to see that. I don't want to be 15 anymore. I don't want to be 45 anymore. I don't even want to be 55. I'm happy being, 60 years old. I'm happy. And I want Black women to be happy at whatever age they're in and be proud and not assume that because I'm 60 or because I'm 59, I have to, portray this image of Black women that way. So I want to be part of the solution. And that's the reason why I want to be actively engaged in every part of Black stock footage to be able to change the narrative. Because it is our responsibility, not somebody else's.
Wow.
Those days are over. Okay, we're not going to let anybody else define us. We're going to take responsibility to define ourselves. And there are people that may not want to be on board because they don't quite get it yet or they're not interested. And it's okay. But you do have a lot of people who are going to want to get on board. All they got to do is be aware and be informed.